What's something stupid you used to do in middle school to be cool? I wrote all the Green Day albums on my bag as a checklist and gradually ticked them to show I had them all. I didn't have them all. This is probably more high school than middle school, but brag about not getting enough sleep. Everyone did it. Oh, you got 5 hours of sleep last night? I've only gotten 2 hours of sleep the past 2 nights. Some stupid game where being the most miserable makes you coolest. A lot of people continue playing this game into adulthood, and not only with sleep. Wore my backpack straps as low as they could possibly go, the bag would slap against the back of my legs every step, but I didn't care cause I was the shit. Wear an upside down backwards to the left yellow visor with my bleached, peroxide hair gelled up. I had a mullet, listened to DJ Quick, wore a Ghost Rider t-shirt all the time, and called everyone Kimosabi. I used to spike my hair to look like Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. Later on I realized I looked like a douche. Sold off my dad's porn. Seriously. Found a bunch of old nudie mags in the basement, ended up selling them out of my locker a page at a time. Worked great until I made the mistake of selling a page to the special needs kid, who immediately showed it to his fundamentalist parents. I suppose the bigger mistake was to get caught doing it again the next year. I'd wear 2 pairs of pants. Normally basketball shorts under jeans. If you asked me then I'd swear it was because it was more comfortable, but really I just thought I was the shit. People made fun of my voice, so I started trying to speak in a lower tone, which backfired almost immediately. My gym teacher referred to me as Kermit the Frog for years. When I was in 6th grade, I learned that the girl I had a crush on was coming to dinner with some family friends of ours. I wanted to do something to impress her to make her think I was really smart. I knew at some point she'd probably be in my room as it's where the kids generally congregated during these sorts of things, so I began to set the stage. At the time, I was all about dumpster diving and hitting up yard sales with my other nerd friends to build shitty Frankenstein rigs with the components we salvaged or picked up on the cheap. So naturally I gathered all my old spare and broken hard drives, poured dish soap all over them and got the hammer out at the ready. When they entered my room, I made sure I was furiously smashing the shit out of these drives with my hammer, tiny metallic pieces and soap suds flying everywhere. We made eye contact for a moment before she and her friend slowly backed out of the room. She avoided me for the remainder of the evening. All these years later, I can still remember the look of horror and confusion on her face. I can't for the life of me remember what series of thoughts lead me to believe there would be any possibility of her having a positive reaction to it. The pubescent mind is an interesting thing. I wore fingerless gloves for an entire day and tried to play it off as weight gloves, however the little Tykes green logo was very visible. The cringe is real. Draw random marks on myself so people thought I got into a flirty pen fight with the girls. I wore fangs for the entire year of 8th grade. No, I don't want to talk about it. I wore a hideous plaid suit jacket from the 70s that I found in the back of my dad's closet. I thought it was hilarious in a so ugly it's cool kind of way. I probably just seemed desperate for attention. Had a pretty righteous wave of extreme yo-yo that swept through during 7th grade. And by extreme I mean a bunch of kids getting excited over who could make their yo-yo sleep the longest. I am choosing a book for reading. There was a boy I had a crush on when I was in 7th grade. After a class field trip one day, a lot of people got really sunburned. When we were changing classes, I overheard him talking about how sunburned he was afterward. I thought it'd be a good conversation starter since I was so sunburned too. So an hour later when we changed classes again, I went up to him and said, "Hey Chris, look at this sunburn." And pulled up my shirt sleeve to show the back of my shoulder. He looked at me really strange, and went, "Okay, yeah. That's nice." And went back to his conversation with his friends. For the rest of the year, I kept getting sunburned intentionally so I'd have a talking point with him. And kept going up to him. "Hey, what about this sunburn? It's pretty bad now. Huh? On top of that, I have such a fair complexion. I don't even tan. So I just burn, get embarrassed and go back to being really white." I used to keep my afro pick in my hair. I am a curly-haired Arab boy. Chain wallets. It started off with short chains. Eventually, it became an unspoken contest to see who could have the longest chain. I flipped over the handlebars of my bike many times when that damn chain got wrapped around the pedal. Wasn't me, but when I was in middle school we had the group who considered themselves the thugs. They weren't that bad. They were pretty much the class clowns that you also didn't want to fuck with. Well, I remember in 6th grade, I went into the bathroom only to find them kicking one of the guys on the floor counting to 30 while the guy on the floor laughed. When it was over, they congratulated him and welcomed him into their group. Yup. So cool. Well, it's not something I did to be cool but to fit in and seem more normal. I used to pack my own lunch when I was a kid because my mom couldn't be bothered with it. And it really hurt my feelings when other kids would complain about how their moms never got it right and would pack the wrong stuff. So I would pack the only things we had in the fridge and pretend to be upset when my mom would get it wrong and put the diet pudding in, instead of the regular stuff. In reality, I did it on purpose so people thought my mom cared enough to pack my lunch too. I didn't just want to fit in, I wanted to blend in. In my middle school, wearing name brand clothes, the kind where everyone can see the logo, was cool for some reason. The two big brands were Echo and South Pole. Problem was, these clothes were expensive, and my single-parent household wasn't exactly well off. So everyone made fun of me because all I had was second-hand clothes, often too small for me. My mom conceded to buying me one South Pole t-shirt. I wore that shirt literally every day. People still made fun of me. I learned a lot from that experience. I would wear button-up shirts and button them unevenly. So there was a spare button on the bottom and an extra buttonhole on top. The theory was that it would annoy girls and they would fix it for me. I wore shorts every day. It's raining and freezing cold outside? Doesn't matter, I'm wearing shorts. Used to bring universal remotes to school and turn off the TVs when teachers tried to show videos to fuck with them. Brought little remote control race cars and put cups over them and drove them around on the floor to scare people who thought it was a rodent. Oh. And JNCO's pants. Made little stick figures out of pipe cleaners. I made the heads just big enough to fit around a pencil. It made me happy seeing someone pull out a pencil with one of my little pipe cleaner people on the end of it. I used to wear band-aids on my knees just because. I thought it made me cooler somehow. It'll take wear Heelys for 1000, Alex. Hair gel, lots of it, just plastered in my hair to the point of forming a helmet. I went to a Catholic school, so I thought being a altar boy made me pretty damn cool. It did not. I played that stupid game, Quarters, with the cool kids. For those who never had the pleasure of playing this game, I'll give you a brief background. One person starts a quarter spinning on edge by flicking it. The second person has to touch the quarter without stopping the spin, followed by person 1 touching the quarter. This touching goes back and forth between the two people like a sad game of hot potato until one person touches the quarter and it stops spinning. If you were the poor bastard that caused the quarter to stop spinning, you had to put your knuckles down on the table and the other person would fling the quarter at you as hard as they could. It would hurt and make people bleed, but in middle school it was the coolest thing to do during lunch break. Carried around a handmade sign I took everywhere. One side said awkward, the other so random. I held this up at some situations to be funny. I wasn't funny. Throwing pencils upward so that they get stuck in the ceiling. Writing that goddamn S everywhere. You know the one. Edit, it's not the damn Stussy logo, they have never ever used the S as a logo. I don't know why everyone thinks this. I would get a girlfriend and then never talk to her again and she would break up with me. I don't know if it was meant to be cool, but it worked to keep me from ever kissing a girl until I was 16. Made a secret deal with a close friend, we both will subtly drop rumors about each other, that we both have hot girlfriends outside school. The next day after football, I initiated, have you seen Pat's girlfriend? She's a real cutie. Another guy, he was saying the same about you this morning. What, you guys made some loser pact about a pretend GF? Me, I gotta go, see you tomorrow. I was in a breaking crew comprised of 5 Caucasian boys ranging in ages from 13 to 14. We were purposefully awful as a kind of performance art. We'd gather at the NY Public Library on Saturdays with our boombox and have everyone laughing at us. My street name was Weak Tea. Put rubber bands on my jeans to scruff them up. Take fashion pictures with girlfriends and hand them out to friends. Wear a belt buckle with my first name's initial on it. Wear K-Swiss with the flaps. Carry only a folder and no backpack. East LA in the early 2000s. I'm not sure how cool he thought it was, but one guy at my assigned lunch table in middle school drank milk out of a pickle every day. The school sold large, uncut pickles as a snack item, and every day, this kid would finish his meal, hollow out the pickle, and drink his milk out of it. Perhaps you are wondering how a kid hollows out a pickle. The answer is to bite one end off and then give the pickle 10 minutes of vigorous, passionate fellatio. In those halcyon days before the internet, Middle school kids' ideas about sex were vague, but we all knew this was the gayest thing in the world. Frankie, however, was unfazed. Dude, that is the gayest thing ever. Gross, what are you talking about? I'm just eating a pickle. MRRFFF gag slew. Come to think of it, I was probably placed at some kind of isolation table for weirdos. But that kid was weird. Started smoking. My fiends and I came up with our own jackass. Called ourselves All Balls. We're running shorts in my 1993 Toronto Blue Jays Division Championship t-shirt to class every day. The shorts would ride up and it looked like I was wearing Speedos while the shirt had holes in the shoulder. I was a self-loathing rich kid and thought if I looked poor, I could be cool. I used to swear like a motherfucker around everyone except the fucking teachers. I thought I was both punk and grunge. I would wear flannel shirts, cargo pants, and 10 necklaces and 20 bracelets. I thought I was so cool. Cringe. Aggressive rollerblading. Playing with yarn. Buying rare types of yarn. For some unknown reason, string games became a huge fad in my middle school. You want to be the coolest kid on the block? You better have some crazy good Angola and a bitchin' cat's cradle. Stuffed my bra. It worked. My friends and I used to layer everything we wore. 2 polos with popped collars, a t-shirt with a cami on top, a polo with 2 camis underneath, the list goes on and on. I'm surprised we didn't all overheat. Colored my hair using Kool-Aid. By the time I used the curling wand I smelled like burnt raspberries. I used to wear all black clothing. No one was impressed, not even the goth kids. I would crawl around on the floor of the school bus and mess around with people's feet. Also, one time I ate a dirt-covered Smartie and I don't even think anyone was watching me. I'm legitimately starting to think I'm actually retarded in some form or another.